Alright, we're going to do this in one take. Hi everybody, I'm going to say my name is Cody. I am from the wonderful state of Nebraska. I just want to show this deck. I didn't see any of it at the regionals. I was really disappointed because I thought people figured this deck out. Currently, out of the playtest group that I play with, where 3 people were playing this exact same deck, there has been some new changes. It has crushed every tournament. Like, not even close. Haven't found a deck that has even come close to it. I wanted to show this deck off in hopes that more people discover this deck and either A, play it in the next regionals, because sadly I will not be able to attend a regionals due to them selling out, which is kind of really pathetic. It's really annoying, actually. Super annoying. I wish I could have brought this to a regionals. I think I would have blown through Orlando. I don't know how I feel about Hartford. If I would play at Hartford, I would have been playing Tricolor Ginyu, because ever since I started playing Crusher Ball, when I played 3-color Ginyu off of a net deck, the deck has been better and better to me. So this is the deck idea that me and a friend came up with. My friend Xavier, I guess he will get the small shout out. Hopefully you guys enjoy it. I'll discuss all my decision makings, and I'll obviously put a list somewhere, description. I guess I'll be that nice. I'm also going to be posting this video. If you find it on Reddit, I'll probably put it on Reddit. Awesome. I'm also part of the Discord. Put things up in the Discord. So those are 2 things that it'll come from. So and also video shitty quality. Don't super care. So this is the deck. It is it's Frieza with a Buu package. And how this deck came up is that someone brought the starter deck Goku with Buu in it. I think Shinron's Lair or the DBS site posted the deck list, or like in my opinion, a shitty deck list. And we took that idea and we put it in the most broken leader, in my opinion, which is the new Frieza. And when we were playing it, it just felt really unfair, because I felt all the matchups you have a problem with go away. The deck is very not good to Cold Bloodlust. If you Cold Blast any of the threats in the deck, it just doesn't feel super right, and I'll explain why when we get to those parts of the deck. And everything, even like after board, we board out Cold Bloodlusts. Not all of them, a few of them, because sometimes it's still relevant, but we bring in more relevant threats that deal with the problem. And I could explain sideboarding. This video is probably going to be a little bit long, so you are going to get a whole lot of information about my ideals of the deck. If you agree with them or disagree with them, obviously I'd like to know that. And you could probably reach out wherever I post this. I'll probably be checking it for about a week or 2. But my main goal is I hope to see this deck at a regionals. I think this deck beats every single deck that I could probably think about right now, especially in the metagame. I just feel it's not even close to what other decks are being played, if played correctly. I should also mention playstyle has a lot to do with this game, and it's hit or miss on if you do it correctly, and you got to think a certain way. Hopefully I can sculpt some minds on how to play it. But yeah, okay, so let's get into it. That's a wonderful 4.5 minute intro. So our leader, Mecha Frieza, obviously, as I said, best leader in the game, not even close. If you're new, this one lets you play spells for free for the most part. Everything in the deck you can probably cast for free except for Objection. But, I mean, if you're playing turn 1 Objection, you're probably playing the deck right. So let's get into the yellow. So the yellow, we're playing 2 Crusher Balls. for Cold Bloodlust, and for the combo. So, obviously the 4 combo is a necessary in all decks. I agree. I don't think there's any reason to not play this card. Now, one thing to notice is that this card is not the most important card. I've been playing it a lot more as energy lately. I think it's a set 1 mindset to not play these as energy. But I feel that the meta is a do the thing meta, and these 6 cards prevent the whole meta game. The do the thing meta, in my opinion, is playing Babidi, playing Perfect Force Cell, in this case playing Buu, and also just playing removal spells that do things. Promo Gohan, 4 mana Promo Gohan, one of those things, counters this outright. Jirens are also a do the thing kind of card. Crusher Ball counters it outright. Crusher Ball and Cold Bloodlust also counter Babidi. This, obviously, one does it better than the other, but you have 6 answers to the do the thing meta, which is why we sat here with the 6. So this is, in my opinion, very standard. The one thing I noticed from the regionals that just happened in Orlando is that people were playing the 1 mana combo Frieza. I think that card is very hard to fit in. I don't think it's worth playing as much. I could see reasoning for it, but the reason I wouldn't play it is I think it feels not as powerful as a play, especially when you're playing a deck like this. The aggression doesn't help you. It doesn't generate card advantage whatsoever. It just puts a 15k beater on the field. I also feel the same way about Frieza's Call. I think Frieza's Call is a terrible card. I don't know why people were playing it. Just getting a 15k beater and bringing your life down to 1 is cool and all, but I think it goes outside of the philosophy of the do the thing meta, in my opinion. So next we're going to get into the blue. So the blue, we're playing 4 energy boosted Majin Buu, 1 energy boosted Beerus, and I'll explain this. 2 Ultimate Judgment Jacos, 3 Whis Coercion, which I'll also explain, 3 Objection, which I feel this is the correct number, and the best card in the deck probably is Senzu, which I think this is a 4 of in every deck that you would play ever. Card counters a do the thing card, which is Gotenks. Just literally negates the whole thing. So 4 Boos. 4 Boos is really good. A, it's strong mana, and B, it's just a strong turn 1 play. If you don't have anything else, cycling a card is also really good, and just having a free combo, it's great. 3 Whis Coercion. The reason we're not playing 4 of them is that there was not enough room in the deck, and Whis Coercion feels weaker than Senzu as an overall. 3 Objection. Objection is probably the strongest turn 1 play in this deck by far. And the reason we're playing 3 of it instead of 4 of it is because the card gets clunky. Playing 4 of it, you only want to see normally 1 throughout the whole entire game. If you see 2, that's fine. Anything past that, you're probably pushing your limit a little bit. But there has been games where double objectioning feels correct and worth taking all the negations and everything for. In terms of hand advantage for the mana, because you're in a do the thing deck that's not susceptible as much to Cold Bloodlust, where if they do Cold Bloodlust your threat, it's not as good. 4 Senzu, as I said, probably the best extra card in the game, next to Cold Bloodlust, obviously. Super versatile, lets you get really far out of control when it comes to playing threats. This card allows you to play easily 2 threats in a turn with not much issue at all. That's also why playing Frieza is nutty. 2 Jacos. The Jacos is for the Cell matchup in the main board, just to give you, I guess, a little bit more breathing room, able to get higher up there. The longer you keep Cell from flipping, the better your matchup win percentage is going to be. That's why playing 2 Jaco in the main is why. You could potentially put in 3 if you would want to cut a Buu. I could see reasoning, but I do. There is one in the sideboard, but we'll go over the sideboard. The one Beerus is the most out of place card. Reason for the one Beerus is it gives you a 5th 4-mana removal spell. This one also just completely 100% negates the threat, which is relevant in decks that like to save their threats a little bit more. Cell being one of them. And also the Mirror is another one where they're more willing to save their threats rather than just letting them die, because your other removal spell is Jiren. So that equates all the blue. The 3 Whis Coercion doesn't seem right. You'll probably be playing these as mana more than anything, because you're not going to care as much about Whis Coercion, just because if you have Senzu Bean, you're probably not dying on a turn. You just have so much removal in this deck, it just feels unfair. So now to get to the how we win the game. So we're playing 3 Hurcules, Buu Assistant. This lets you tutor for your win condition. It's also a 0-cost 5,000 combo. A lot of the problems with a lot of the decks that are coming out that are trying to do the thing way too hard is they're not paying attention to this number, in my opinion. Senzu Bean allows you to get around that a little bit more, where you don't have to pay attention to the number as much. Because if you Senzu Bean taking a life, you technically get 2 1-cost combos. But this kind of helps the curve out. It also lets you find one of the 4 5-mana Boos. You never want to find the bigger one. The next card is the Promo Ability Unleash Ultimate Gohan. This is probably what makes the deck absolutely outrageous. The value in this card is unbelievable. It fits into the 0-5,000 combo, which is more versatile than a 1-10,000 combo. 3-drop. It can be played as a 3-drop. I normally don't do that. I normally hold it for the combo as a combo piece, rather than a combo piece as in your do the thing part of the deck, not as I'm gonna play as a combo. But it just generates card advantage. It's just like attacking with an awakened leader. It's outrageous. It also pushes games where this could be an ending attacker, that if your opponent ever counters it, you just gained a card off of them losing a card. Card's insane. Always play 4 if you're going to play any of them. It's the only downside of it, it's really heavy in red. The next card is the removal. So your removal package is on top of this. So you're playing 5 removal cards. For Jiren. Jiren is probably the best removal spell. So the reasoning why Jiren is easily one of the best removal spells is that Cold Bloodlust is extremely weak against it. If you Cold Bloodlust a Jiren, it's a 20k beater, but for the most part, it doesn't need to attack. It's more of a threatening card than anything. And if they Cold Bloodlust it and try to kill it back, if you have the Cold Bloodlust to do it back, your advantage is so far ahead that they just spent 4 mana and a Cold Bloodlust to do absolutely, like, for you to just have a threat that's going to kill their threat, and like you just gain infinite board advantage. Literally, this card is just nuts, just by far. Jiren is insane. So the next juicy card is the Buu that we want in our hand. So this card, if you are unaware of what the 5-mana Buu does, it has an irrelevant card text, which is Evolve on top of Majin Buu. A red Majin Buu, I'm sorry. And then the biggest thing is the Union Absorb. So the Union Absorb is place a battle card under it, and then you could search your deck for a Buu that costs 25,000 or more that's not his card name, and put it on top. And shuffle afterwards. So this is how we win the game. is this card right here being casted and resolved. And obviously I'll go into what we go into. 4 more, part of the combo, which is the 6 mana Gohan. 6 mana Gohan is the weaker option, in my opinion, of what to put under your Awakening Majin Buu. This card is also very strong for Senzu being into another threat kind of play. It's very versatile, very strong. It lets you do your thing, and it also lets you close out games in terms of when they're playing too many one-drop cantrips. So if they're playing too many Majin Buus, too many Curious Bundle Gokus, too many Krillins, you know, people... I see a lot of trash out there that you can just... This card is very versatile in that sense. The amount of times you actually cast it for 6 is literal 0. Yeah, about literal 0. I mean, it's possible. You can throw it in there. Most times you're only going to cast it for 2, or it's going to go under a Majin Buu, or it's going to be energy. And then the best card in the deck is the Grand Evil Absorption Majin Buu. So this card it evolves onto a Son Gohan Adolescence for 6. So if it gets caught in your hand in the late game, you can still, you know, treat it like a Brawly and just slam it down on your little guy. So you can slam it down on one of the 3 mana ones, one of the 6 mana ones. It has dual attack, which is probably one of the best keywords on the card. And then it has the activate main. Once per turn, choose a Gohan under it. So when you play this card, and then you play, let's say, this card under this card to tutor for this card in your deck. The only bad part is that you can only get this from your deck, so if you draw all these, it's a little rough. But you're playing Jiren and Gohan as I'm just going to win the game anyway. So it does have a chance to not do its thing, but it's still like you're playing 2 of the best red cards. Put this on top, and then if you ever do this play right here and it doesn't get punished, there's there's no way I think you can lose the game. The reason why this deck is so strong is if you play this and they Cold Bloodlust it, and you have a Cold Bloodlust in hand, this thing is probably not dying. The only time it would probably ever die is against a Cell, but even then they can't Cold Bloodlust it if they're playing Cell. If you do this, and then this gets Cold Bloodlusted, if this lives for a turn, then you're just back into it's just like Cold Bloodlusting Jiren. You're just back onto this advanced board position. That's outrageous. But back to its ability. So on the once per turn, you can choose an Adolescent Gohan under it. So obviously we choose this one, or we choose the 6 mana Gohan, based on whatever's in your hand at the time when you're comboing. It gains all the abilities of the card, so you get the auto trigger from the Son Gohan that's under it. And it can also attack battle cards. So it becomes this, but drawing cards. It's just not fair. Like, when you're able to clear their whole entire board and draw a card for each time you kill their whole entire board, you don't even need to awaken. If your opponent's trying to like keep you off of awakening, if you play this combo, you're drawing 2 cards a turn for each turn that they don't awaken you, and they're just not gaining advantage back. And also every single threat that they're playing is just going to die, and they're giving you more life for spells to save this thing. I'm just amazed nobody thought of this. Like, it was a deck on Shenron's list. Like, I don't know how you don't put this together. The deck is insanely, and like the Hurcule's Buu's assistant, like you have 8 copies of one of the combo pieces, and you have 7 copies of the other half. This one does have a chance to whiff. That is true. When playing it, you do have that chance to whiff, but most of the time it doesn't feel like it matters, because when you're just holding down the fort with Jiren's, Gohan's, if they flip you, you're eventually going to draw one of these. And once you do, and you play this, and you put a Gohan under it, you're not really losing the game from there. It's just really strong. It's 2 removal spells and draw 2 cards. And then potentially it has finishing power like no other. Dealing 4 points of damage in a turn with 130k attacker is stronger than any 7 drop in the whole entire game. Being able to Senzu beam this threat and attacking twice with it is near outrageous in terms of strength. It's an endgame threat to end all endgame threats. The only threat I think is stronger than this one is probably 6 mana Broly. Just discarding 2 cards is really strong if it resolves. But other than that, there's no other satisfying feeling than just getting the Wombo combo of playing this, playing the 5 mana Buu, getting the 3 mana Gohan under it, and then just going into the 7 mana Buu. The numbers I'm pretty set in stone on. There's probably some flex spots in the blue, but in this red is really good. Never really ran into any issues with it. The only problem that can happen is that you just draw too many of these. So if you draw too many of these, your goal is to just have one of these stick and just evolve onto it. And even then, it's still, you're playing 2 extremely strong threats that just become a busted threat. So that's it for the main deck. And now, to go into the sideboard. Now the sideboard is more set up for our metagame, where we figured out the deck. I would assume, I want to assume other people figured this deck out and just didn't play it, or didn't get numbers correct and it felt really clunky. But this list just feels, I don't know, the list just feels really good. But we can go into sideboard and we can figure out what I thought was really good in there. So the sideboard, we have 3 of the 5 mana Gotenks. This is the new edition, which is 3 of the Son Goten Family of Justice, 2 Crusher Balls, 2 King Vegeta's Surprise Attack, 1 Jaco, 2 Battering Lasers, and 2 Mafubas. So sideboard tech is, these come in against Cell. If you play one of these on 5 mana, it's really hard for a Cell player to win. You have protection for it from Kales. You have, if you resolve this card and save it, it's really hard for a Cell player to win. There's only so many Senzu Beans they can have at one time, that even if they save themselves once, if you untap with this card especially, it's Cell can't keep up with it. They could kill your Gotenks, which is completely fine, but having 3 15k beaters on top of just having casual Wombo combo on top of that, it's once again, it just doesn't feel fair. Especially if Cell uses their kill ability on a Gotenks rather than a Buu. Son Goten Family of Justice. This card was new in here. This used to be 2 Bobbities and an Objection, the 4th Objection. The reason why we went over to these is to kill revenge blockers. So your biggest struggle in this matchup is revenge blockers. So potentially if this deck gets, if people think that this deck is as good as I think it is, and gets too popular, this would be a main board tech just to play around a metagame. I'm more comfortable putting in the sideboard because there's only 3 of them in my 16-player local, 15 to 16-player locals. So we really don't see a whole bunch of them. A bunch of tech against this deck. 2 Crusher Balls. Card is really good against red decks. Jiren, especially Jiren, Gohans, all of them. You don't want to Cold Bloodlust those threats. You want to Crusher Ball those threats. It's just straight up better. Crusher Ball is a card that we board out 2 Cold Bloodlust for in the mirror. And it's also another thing where you want to take out Cold Bloodlust against Jirens and Gohans. King Vegeta Surprise Attack. Same thought process. If your opponent's deck's removal is based around Jiren or Buu, this card stops it. Just straight up. It's almost like playing the Enraged Gohan, just a little worse. I mean, but it's also 1 mana, so if you do your thing and they keep you on 5, you can actually cast this card. You can't cast the other one. It's a good card. Mafuba, same thought process. More options. If you ever play against the Zamasu deck, this card is very good. Unlike King Vegeta Surprise Attack. Just still, once again, really good against Jirens, really good against Boos. We're playing 2 Battering Lasers. Battering Laser is for, once again, more of a Frieza. If you run to a Frieza matchup, it's really good. And Vegeta or leader attacking matchups, it's really good. A lot of leader attackers, so blue Vegetas, red Vegetas, anything that wants to attack with their leader to more win the game. Battering Laser is a little bit better of a card because their defensive options are more played around countering your attacks rather than playing dudes to stop your threats. So if you Battering Laser a Whis Coercion, you're probably going to win the game that turn because they don't have counter spells, which is what they planned on using to save themselves for the rest of the game. And if you take that option away from them, they're going to lose the game. That's just why it's good. The only problem is getting the second yellow card. But if you hit it, you hit it. So it's, you can play around it. You do draw a lot of cards in this deck. Every single time I play Battering Laser, I've always had a yellow card. So I've never seen too much of a problem with it. And then the last slot is the Jaco. Bring in the 3rd Jaco. Really good against the Cell matchup. Bounce TN. Beyond that, it's really worthless, I guess. It's really good in the leader decks, I guess, as well. So you could bounce Champa. The card still gets a double strike, but they lose 1,000 when they're trying to combo off. Card just strong that way. Sideboard options, normally you're boarding out one of the big... when you're bringing in more threats, you're taking out less of the Wombo combo. So normally we are boarding out one of the big Boos, one of the big Gohans, Jacos if they're not playing bigger stuff. The board, I feel, is a little straightforward, but just taking out one-ofs. There's some decision making there, and I guess that's up to the player's play style. But other than that, that is the 65 cards. I think this deck is... I don't know. I just want people to experience this deck, to just feel how unfair it feels to just play a big Buu. If you play a big Buu, it feels like you can't lose the game most of the time. That's just a personally speaking. But hopefully this deck gains some traction. Hopefully you like my description of it. This video is really long, and I feel like I ramble a lot, but hopefully you get a lot of insight of deck decisions of why I did the main deck how it is. And when I say I mean me and a friend of mine. He always gets mad when I say otherwise. If you have any questions, please, whatever I post this on, send me a question about it. Also, I really do like making decks for this game. If anybody wants to link me a deck idea of things that they think would be good, I'm always down to listen. And hopefully somebody else finds the busted tech. But right now, if I had to play in any big tournament, I'd be bringing this, hands down. I theory crafted, I should say, multiple versions of a Mecha Frieza deck. This one just felt the most unfair. And watching the regionals, I feel like this deck would crush the whole entire tournament with no problems. Yeah, the way I was watching the tournament, it would have been the easiest. I'm going to be really cocky about it, and I hope people get mad when I say this too. It would have been the easiest 9-0 of my existence if nobody thought of this deck and I brought it in an unknown, like, in an unaware meta. Yeah, so, I sound confident. I feel confident. If you don't know about this deck, you should play this deck. If your meta doesn't know about this deck, so your LGSs, your bigger tournaments, anything like that, if they are unaware of this deck, I highly suggest bringing it. And I want to know if you feel like the dirty, unfair top decker, like top decking player. But yeah, I guess I'll stop the video there. I don't know what more to say other than kind of sound like a dick. But, I mean, you know, I get to feel like that. This deck's great. This deck's awesome. But yeah, let me know any feedback if you guys actually try it out. And thanks for listening for the 30 minutes that I rambled on about this thing. Deck list, description, anything like that. If you have any questions about any of the options that I didn't go over, I would be happy to explain them as well. Thank you.